Or Mr. DeSantis for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome, Mr. Secretary. I was looking through this list of the 36,000 criminals who were released, and some of this stuff is really, really troubling when you look at serious crimes: homicide, sexual assault, robbery, aggravated assault, domestic violence. Do you agree, just as a general, somebody illegally enters the United States and they're committing crimes that endanger the life, liberty, or property of the American people, that the response for our policy and our government should be that those individuals are sent back to where they came from, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And so I noticed in the response that you sent to the committee that there were certain numbers of criminals who were enumerated as having been released because of binding legal precedent. So, for example, there were 10 individuals released whose crimes were classified as homicide, willful kill, gun. And the reason, according to the response, was because you're only allowed to hold them for a certain amount of time. And I think in those situations it's because the parent country will not accept them back. Is that a fair guess as to why we would be releasing people who are out there mowing people down with a firearm?
I know in many cases a person is released on conditions because we do not think we have the legal authority to continue to hold them.
And you can't deport them. Is that the nub? I'm just trying to figure out.
That could be one of the reasons, but I hesitate to try to give a broad categorization of 36,000 different.
But are there certain instances where there are violent criminals who the host countries have not allowed us to return them? Has that in fact happened?
That is probably the case.
Okay. So my question to you is, have you notified the State Department that this is the case? Because there's a statute, 8 U.S.C. 1253 Delta, which basically says that upon notification, the Secretary of State is supposed to order the consular offices in those foreign countries to discontinue granting visas until those countries are willing to accept back their foreign nationals. So have you notified the Secretary of State that this has happened? And if not, why not? And if not, will you do so in the future?
I'd have to check.
Okay. If you could do that, that'd be helpful, because the statute imposes a duty on the Secretary of State. I think we may be get some headway if we just were to comply with the laws. One of the things I saw, there were over 15,000 convictions for DUI, and you see reports where there are illegal immigrants driving drunk and killing people. Yet I was alarmed when I saw an anonymous ICE official state that 2 convictions for DUI simply aren't enough to warrant detention and removal. This is putting the American people's lives in jeopardy. It's a very serious offense. Now, Chairman Smith wrote to ICE before you were DHS Secretary, asking them to launch removal proceedings against illegal immigrants with prior convictions for drunk driving. So my question for you, and Secretary Napolitano, I don't think, responded affirmatively. Will you honor former Chairman Smith's request and protect innocent American lives by detaining these individuals who have these multiple DUI convictions?
Well, I hesitate to give a categorical response to individual cases without knowing the circumstances of the individual cases. In general, I believe that someone who represents a threat to public safety, who is removable, should be detained and removed.
And that would include someone, you would say multiple convictions for DUI, a repeat performer, that person poses a threat to public safety?
I generally regard a DUI as a significant misdemeanor.
A question about U.S. citizens negatively affected by some of the administration's policies. There was an article in the New York Times recently about the DACA program, and basically what they said was the department had to devote so many resources to doing the DACA that these U.S. citizens are now seeing their wait times go if they want to bring in a foreign national who's a spouse or family member. So my question to you is, do you find it troubling that legal immigrants and U.S. citizens who've simply been playing by the rules are suffering due to the administration's desire to grant these benefits, which, we can both agree were not statutorily mandated? This is administrative discretion, as you said. Does it bother you that U.S. citizens are getting the short end of the stick in some instances?
My understanding is that was a temporary phenomenon that abated after a period of time, and my understanding is that is not the case now.
Okay, so you don't think that was good that happened, though? You agree that there's a problem?
I agree that those who are lawfully in this country who are seeking citizenship should not have to wait an unduly long period of time to obtain that. Yes.
Very well. I yield back.
Chair, thanks, gentlemen. The committee will stand in recess.